I'm joined here today by the one, the only, of course, talking about a combat sports legend in Thiago Alves. Thanks so much for joining me, sir. How are you?
Doing good, Lucas. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I've been hearing your name a lot recently, and I was thinking, does he have a fight or something? But it sounds like Mike Perry, and a lot of people want to see you with that fight, man. What's going on? Why are we seeing your name so much?
So Mike Perry just competed for the first time in Bare Knuckle Boxing. I'm the champion, the middleweight champion at Bare Knuckle Boxing Fighting Championship. So that's the fight that I think the fans want to see. That's the fight that I would like to have because Mike Perry has a big name. It'll be the fight that to bring the right, attraction that we need to bring, BKFC to mainstream. So yeah, that's definitely the fight, I want next.
It's definitely a little bit odd, right? In bare knuckle, like we see, like in the UFC and MMA, you can have like 7 fights, you still don't have a title shot. He makes his debut. Now we're already talking about fighting the champion Thiago Alves. Is it weird for you just seeing how fast the sport moves?
No, not at all. I mean, we're in the show business, right? He has a big following, for the money that I think I deserve, the money that I'm asking. It needs to be a big profile fight. So that's where we are right now. I know we have a lot of great fighters in BKFC, but unfortunately, they don't bring, the the eyes, that Mike Perry is going to bring. So that's definitely the next fight to make, and I think it'll be the biggest fight, in bare knuckle boxing history because he came from MMA. I came from MMA. Of course, I'm a lot more decorated than he was in UFC and MMA, but he is like the new generation. I'm like the old school, so it'll be a good clash of new school versus old school.
It's funny you say old school because when people talk about your career, it's like, you had a huge knockout over Matt Hughes. I mean, you fought George St. Pierre in his prime. Like, it's crazy looking back how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be part of American Top Team for almost 2 decades. That definitely, helps me stay, always at the top because, we have so many killers in the room day in, day out, and having a good defense doesn't hurt either.
I know the big thing we're hearing too is that you're getting a lot into coaching, and people seem to really like you as a coach. They're saying you've got a thing, you've got a good thing going. Not every fighter can be a good coach, but how's that transition been too? Because it seems like people are really responding well to you.
Dude, I'm blessed. I don't think that is nothing in when it comes to combat sport that I haven't been through it. I've been to the highs of the highs, the low, main event spot, title shot. I'm a world champion today, so I'm able to relate to all my guys, in every situation that they're going through because I've been there. And I have no ego when it comes to my coaching. It's all about the athlete. What can I do to make sure my athlete is at his best for that big night in his life? Being, on the coaching on the fighting side, I understand exactly what they're going through. So, and also I have the privilege to work with my coaches that were coaching me when I was a fighter. Now I work alongside with them. So I got a good, a best of both worlds, when it comes to fighting and coaching. So it translates well. I'm able to relay the message that they seem to get it, and it's just the beginning for me. I think I'm going to become a lot better as, time goes on.
And there's a lot you're working on. Obviously, the bare knuckle boxer, you've got the coaching as well. You're at ATT, and then I believe you also have this thing called Life Train. What exactly is this project that you're working on?
So the live train, it's a combat sports platform where every fighter or every coach under this platform will have the ability to create their own online gym. So every coach has the ability to have a bunch of pre-record content, where you can show techniques, workout videos, whatever. But also you have the opportunity to interact one-on-one with the coach, with the best fighters in the world, by either purchasing a training session, it could be just a sit down and talk so you can learn a little bit more about your favorite fighter. It could be a video breakdown, if you have a video that you want to get a different perspective from a different coach or a different fighter, we'll be able to break that video down with you. And also just the one-on-one, just pick your favorite fighter's brain, maybe you want to work out. So we have many different ways, to relate with the public. And that was very attractive to me because as a fighter you're not making money if you're not competing. You need to have a constant schedule to make money unless you have a solid sponsorship monthly that helps you stay afloat. And as a coach also, if your athletes are not competing regularly, or if you don't have a lot of private students, it's kind of hard to make money. So with this platform you're able to stay involved, stay engaged with mixed martial arts, with whatever is your field. We have three modalities right now. We have boxing, we have wrestling, and MMA. As you know, MMA will have many different martial arts. But that was what attracted me the most. It's kind of like give it back to the fighting community in a way where you can just stay focused on your training. On the side, you got life training to bring you that extra income, and you don't have to do something outside of fighting to make ends meet.
I assume for you it must be funny to look back when you first started in MMA, and I'm sure the resources were extremely limited. You're pretty happy you found someone that understood the sport, and now today you have stuff like this. Even bare knuckle coming up as a new sport. It must be weird for you seeing how far everything's come resource wise.
Yeah, I mean, when I relocated from Fortaleza, Brazil to South Florida, talking about living as a professional MMA fighter, it was pretty much impossible. I think I moved here, it was 2003. The only big fighters that I knew, they were fighting in Pride, which is in Japan. For a little kid coming from Brazil, it was almost impossible, for me to see myself as a professional fighter. But it's crazy how combat sports evolve. MMA today is mainstream. And my goal joining Bare Knuckle Boxing 2020 is to bring Bare Knuckle Boxing to mainstream because I think it's very, very appealing. It's super competitive, two hands against two hands. And it could be the genuine sports, a sport that anybody could, box, anybody could throw hands, you don't need any special prep. You can just take your shirt off and you're ready to go. So that's where we are right now. I'm happy that I was able to be part of the golden era in MMA, help bring the sport to where it is right now. And now that's where I'm at in bare knuckle boxing, trying to bring awareness to this amazing sport, and just have more options for my brothers in combat sports to fight.
The big thing I hear from a lot of veteran fighters is that they get to a point in their career where the biggest thing that hurts their body is the grappling. They're like the constant grappling, the training is very hard on your body. Is the fact that you're doing bare knuckle, has that added extra years to your career because you don't have to, hurt your body as much?
Absolutely. No, I have over 14 surgeries throughout my UFC career. And unfortunately, most of your injuries happen when you're wrestling, when you're sparring, when you're going from striking to grappling, that whole like changing level thing. That's when, something unique get caught somewhere or your shoulder just snaps. So being able to just focus on boxing, after almost 2 decades in MMA was kind of refreshing because at the same time, you kind of spread thin because you have to work on everything throughout the week. So my schedule is always I gotta train Muay Thai twice a week, boxing twice a week, wrestling twice a week, grappling twice a week, and then you gotta spar, and then you gotta do strength conditioning on top of that. So it really takes everything that you have to be successful, in MMA. Be able to just focus in boxing and strength conditioning and my road work was very refreshing because I have all this knowledge now that I can just put into one thing and then it becomes fun. I'm very limited because I'm just using my hands, but at the same time, you're able to create magic with the little options that you have just by taking one step to this side, move your head to the other side. So it's been very refreshing and exciting.
Speaking of refreshing and exciting, if you take on Mike Perry, we know that he likes to have fun in the build up to fights. I mean, he brought that baseball bat with him with Julian Lane. Are you looking forward to kind of that? Because, it's not so much you're talking about the fight, is that things are going to be a lot more fun if Mike Perry's involved.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm excited to see how it goes. Mike Perry, it's known for his personality outside of fighting. I don't think when it comes to fighting, he's as accomplished as I am. I've been in this business where way back then you don't have to promote yourself. The promoter will do that for you. But things change. I understand the game, so it'll be fun to see what he's gonna come up with.
Would he be able to bring out the trash talk side of Thiago Alves? I feel like we don't see that too much. Would you be the one to bring a baseball bat to a press conference? Could he bring out that side of you?
I don't think so. He's definitely going to bring the pit bull when it comes
Yeah.
time to fight. Fight night. I'll 100% give him everything that he can handle. I don't think he can handle everything that I have, but when it comes to build up, for me, I've been involved in this business for such a long time. In a way, I know that you have to sell the fight, but talking a lot of trash, it kind of takes away from you working and focus on the things that you need to work on to be effective that fight night. So he's gonna do his. I'm gonna do my. I think my fighting speaks for itself. So in a way, I have to promote myself, but every time you see me fighting, it's gonna be a good fight. So I don't need to talk much.
So with bare knuckle being such a new sport, how do you guys sort of handle game planning and like watching tape, for example? Because I assume with Mike Perry, you only have one tape to watch, and that fight with Julian Lane. How does that affect your preparation?
We actually have two. He fought Thriller, which is kind of
Right,
similar,
right, right.
MMA gloves, and he was just throwing hands. But that is not really. I don't really focus on my opponent too much. I have awareness where he's good at, where he's not so good at, and then after that, I just focus on the things that I can do to make sure that he's always, on a bad spot. So the focus mainly, is 75, 80% on me. The other, 20% on C, and what he's bringing to the table, because you got to be aware, but you don't want to overthink. You want to make sure that you focus on everything that you're able to do.
I think the big question when guys leave MMA, go over to bare knuckles, people want to know, like, are you ever going to come back to MMA, or is that a door that you can definitively close in your career?
At first, I decided to close the door because it was a lot easier on my body, just focusing on punching and not be worried about elbows and knees and grappling and all that. But today I'm open for anything. Money talks. If the opportunity is great outside of bare knuckle boxing, why not? I'm in the MMA. It's easy for me as well. I've been doing my whole life. I'm part of the best team in the world, ATT. Oh, wrong hand, ATT. And so it's an easy transition for me. Doing either boxing or MMA. Fighting itself is super easy because of my lifestyle. It's 24/7 combat sports. So
There was this big highlight we saw on Twitter from a boxing match where the guy came out, double legged his opponent. For you guys that have done MMA for so long, do you sometimes have to remember that, oh, we can only throw hands? Like, do you have kind of that reflex sometimes to throw a little extra?
absolutely. My first fight in BKFC against Julian Lane, the first 2 rounds, I literally had to stop myself from throwing leg kicks. I threw a jab, I saw that leg in front of me. I was like, no, you can't do that. I threw an uppercut. That inside low kick was right there. I said, you can't do that either. After, mid of the third round, I was more dialing. I was just throwing hands. But yeah, it's muscle memory, especially in those high pressure situations. Are you going to resort to where you used to do? So, it's always a possibility. You might see somebody getting picked up in BKFC and they're dropping their head. It's funny that you mentioned that. When I was first getting into boxing, I was sparring high level boxers, and I always tell them, so listen, if I'm getting beat up, man, if I kick you in the calf, it's not because I want, it's just way I'm gonna, defend myself. They start laughing.
But did you have kind of that knowledge though when you spar like a boxer? You think like, this guy has high level tools, but you have a lot more tools under your belt. Is that something you think about when you're going up against these guys?
Absolutely. Every time I spar a guy that has faster hands or been doing boxing for a little bit longer than me, I try to close the gap. I try to dirty box a little bit. I try to give him feints that he haven't seen it before. I lift my leg here and there so he can be worried about something that he's never seen before. But when it comes down to fighting, I know how to fight. I know what it takes to be effective inside of that close range. So it's very fun. It's like I said, it's kind of refreshing to focus on something else. After all these years of MMA, getting pulled on your neck and takedowns and trying to get up and trying to mix everything. It was pretty cool, and I'm learning a lot. I think it's making me a better coach, a better fighter. And I'm excited to see how much more damage I can do.
So getting back to the Mike Perry stuff before we wrap up, has BKFC given you some kind of indication that yes, they're interested in the fight and that could potentially be next for you?
I mean, it'll be kind of silly if they don't try to make that fight happen. That it's definitely the biggest BKFC fight ever. To this day, he has a big following. Even everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows my pedigree in this business. If you watch my last 2 fight in BKFC, how can you not be excited for me to get back in there? I think the 2 times that I compete in BKFC, I was able to bring their stock up big time. After I joined BKFC, it kind of became cool to become a bare knuckle boxing fighter after that. Paige Van Zam, Chad Mendes, even Mike Perry came in. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I think that's the fight to be made. It's all about numbers right now and the time frame. When we can make that happen.
All right, one last question for you. It's kind of a tricky one because you mentioned the time frame thing, but realistically, when do you think this fight happens? When are we going to see you guys, I guess, knuckle up?
I'm thinking by June, July. That should be a good time frame. I don't know if he broke his hand. I heard some rumors that he might have break his hand in his last fight. I'm not sure. But if he had break his hand, I think by June or July we can definitely make that happen. If he had broke his hand, then we can definitely schedule for later on. Like I said before, if BKFC is willing to pay what I think I deserve, to defend my belt, I have no discrimination. Anybody can get it. Just pay me, tell me a day, give me a name, and I'll make it happen. But I think financial wise for me and for the company, to bring the company to the mainstream, I think me and Mike Perry is the fight to make.
All right. Well, I really hope they do book that fight. That seems like a slam dunk. It seems like the obvious one, but we know business is weird. Thank you so much for the time, Thiago. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing this fight happen.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.